Hey guys, and welcome to my YouTube show, Ruben's History Show. Today I'm going to talk about the rise of Augustus. But before I do that, I missed some details in my previous video of the story of Julius Caesar, who was the dictator of Rome. And in some details I missed in my previous video was that when Pompey was in Greece, when it was in Greece, he started planning an invasion of Italy to take back Italy from the control of Caesar. But it failed because he was defeated at the Battle of Pharsalus in August 48 BC, which led to him taking refuge into Egypt, which led to his death. A month later, on September 28th, 48 BC, or September 29th, 48 BC. So, and also another topic I missed was another topic I missed in my previous video of the story of Julius Caesar was that in 56 BC was the time when the Lucca conference was held in the city of Lucca, which is in present day Italy, or it was the Roman Republic during that time. And they met in the city of Lucca. The three men, Pompey the Great, Julius Caesar, and Marcus Crassus, met in the city. And then Caesar gave them the provinces of gave them the provinces of gave them the provinces of so Caesar gave the province of Syria to Crassus, and so he became the governor of Syria, of the Roman Syria, which was a Roman province of Syria, a Roman province of Rome, because Syria was a Roman province. And he gave the province of Spain to Pompey. So they were governors of those areas. So those were some of the topics I missed in the story of part 2 of Julius Caesar. So now back to the rise of Augustus. So Augustus was born on September 23rd, 63 BC in Rome, the Roman Republic at the time. His father was I'm trying to remember what his father's name was. I don't remember the actual name of his father, but his mother was he was born to his mom and father, and his father's name was Gaius Octavius, I believe. His father's name was Gaius Octavius, and I don't remember his mom's exact name, but he was born in Rome, and his father was a military commander, and he was also the governor of Macedonia, where Alexander the Great was the king 300 years earlier. So 300 years before Augustus was born. So when Augustus's father died in 59 BC, Caesar Octavian, then that was his birth name, Octavian. So his father died in 59 BC when Octavian was only 4 years old. And so he was the grandnephew of Julius Caesar, and he also appeared with Caesar many times, quite often, at the banquets in Rome. He appeared with Caesar at the banquets and in the battlefields. So while he was in Spain, while Octavian was in Spain, he was campaigning in Spain, and he also got in a shipwreck, and while he was campaigning in Spain with his granduncle Caesar. So Augustus he was in Alarica. He was studying in Alarica, Apollona, which is located in Alarica, or which is in the present day Balkans, I believe. He was studying during that time, and he also received word from his mom that his grandnephew was killed, and he heard word about that his granduncle was killed in Rome by these conspirators. So the conspirators thought, or the assassins of the Caesar killing, thought they would be celebrated as liberators for killing Caesar the tyrant, or the tyrant of Rome. So they were forced out of the city, and Mark Antony knew about the assassination of Caesar the day before it happened. He knew about the assassination attempt of Caesar, and he didn't want to tell Caesar about his assassination. So, following this, Augustus returned to Rome because Julius Caesar named Octavian the heir to the Rome to be the successor of the Roman Republic. So Augustus returned to Rome with his friend, uh, Marcus Vespasian Agrippa, who was his friend, who helped him with this political issues, with his political career, while he was in Roman politics. So he returned to Rome, and Mark Antony was in control of Rome following his granduncle's death, Caesar. So Octavian returned to Rome so he could take control of Rome during that time. And Mark Antony also organized the funeral for Julius Caesar and gave the speech of Julius Caesar's funeral. At Julius Caesar's funeral. Octavian returned to the city of Rome, and he wanted to take control of Rome. And he says, "I am here so I could succeed my father." And so Mark Antony was laughing because he said, you want to take the throne?" And he says, and Octavian says, "Well, yeah, my granduncle wanted me to become the new guy in charge of Rome." And so Anthony said, he said that, Julius Caesar did. Well, your granduncle didn't say that, and they became enemies during that time, because Mark Antony was selling Julius Caesar's gold to the people of Rome, and Octavian was so upset at Mark Antony because he was selling his granduncle's gold to the people of Rome. And they became arch enemies during that period. And also during his time in Rome, he actually established the Second Triumvirate, which was a political alliance between these three men: Mark Antony, or Marcus Antonius, and Marcus Antonius, August, Octavian, Gaius Octavian, and Marcus Lepidus, who was one of the generals of Rome, or military commander. So after that meeting, they established the Second Triumvirate, and at the meeting at Bologna, which is a city located in Italy. And so they made a proscription list of the people who were against the Second Triumvirate, which included, what's the name? Cicero's name on it. And they actually killed Cicero because Cicero was making a bunch of speeches he made a list of speeches against Mark Antony because he didn't like Mark Antony because they were arch enemies. And after the death of Caesar, those were the two men who were they were two men who didn't like each other. Marcus Tullius Cicero, who was a Roman orator and statesman and philosopher and lawyer, and Mark Antony was the Roman general and a Roman politician. So they both didn't like each other, and they were powerful. They were powerful of Rome. They had a power to Rome after the death of Caesar, and they actually killed Cicero on December 7th, 43 BC, which was 1,000 years ago. So after that there was the Mark Antony went to they Mark Antony launched a campaign against the Parthians during that time, and that campaign was launched against Parthia, which is present day Iran, or which was called the Persia. So also he wanted to Mark Antony launched the invasion of Parthia because that's where Crassus died, and that was where Caesar was planning to invade Persia before his assassination. And also when Augustus was in Rome, or when he was a part of the Second Triumvirate, they actually started hunting down the assassins who killed Caesar. So they retreated to Macedonia. That's where they were hiding at the time. And Mark Antony and Lepidus and Augustus, Octavian, went to fight them. They went to fight Brutus and Cassius, who were the assassins of Caesar. So they were defeated at the Battle of Philippia on October 3rd and October 23rd, 42 BC. And they were forced to commit suicide because they had to surrender, Brutus and Cassius. So after the assassins of Julius Caesar were brought to justice, there was Sextus Pompey, who was against the second triumvirate during that time, and he was defeated by Augustus in 36 BC, and he was captured and executed a year later because Mark Antony did not want Sextus Pompey to be on trial because he didn't want Sextus Pompey to be on trial, who was one of the sons of Pompey the Great, or Pompeius Magnus, which is in Latin. So Mark Antony also went to Egypt during when Augustus was a part of the Second Triumvirate. So that's where Mark Antony met with Cleopatra, and they also fell in love, like Julius Caesar did with Cleopatra. But this time they got married, Mark Antony and Cleopatra. They got married, and they were dressed in this suits. They were dressed They were dressed as the gods of Isis and Osiris, which was an Egyptian god and goddesses. Osiris was dressed up as Mark Antony, and Isis was dressed up as Cleopatra. So, and they both had kids, which were twins. So Cleopatra gave birth to Alexander Helos, which they named in the honor of Alexander the Great, who conquered the Persian Empire in 330 BC. And she also gave birth to Cleopatra Selina. And Mark Antony also gave them titles. He gave his daughter Cleopatra Selina the title of the Queen of Libya, I believe, and he also gave her son the title of also gave her son the title Alexander. He lost the title of the King of Armenia. So he was made the King of Armenia during that period, and Alexander, no, not Alexander, sorry, Octavian wanted to know why Mark Antony was in Egypt, because he had no business in Egypt. That's what, and Octavian wanted him to come back. He tried to do everything. He tried to do his best to keep Mark Antony away from Egypt. And so he wanted Mark Antony to, and his wife was kind of curious about what Mark Antony was doing while he was in Egypt. So he had a wife. Mark Antony had a wife while he was in Egypt, while her wife was in Rome. I think it was Octavia. He had him married to Octavia, which was one of the ancestors of Augustus, which was one of the ancestors of Octavian. So 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 Octavian wanted Mark Antony to return, which he did during that time, and he returned to Rome, I believe, and then I think he returned to Rome, or he stayed in Egypt. And during that time, there was this the final war of the Roman Republic, which was thought between the Mark Antony and Octavian. And I'm going to talk about that in my next video, and I'll see you there.